been a bit of a roller coaster, actually. So the reason this job appealed to me so much was because of the pandemic and the thought of putting out work that actually really benefits people and trying to combat misinformation. That is such a huge part of healthcare comms.
Welcome to Confessions of a Social Media Manager with me, Erin from Agorapulse. Today I have with me Natasha Vinn. Natasha is the social media account manager for Ogilvy Health. Now, any listeners worth their salt in PR should know exactly who Ogilvy are. They are a New York City-based British advertising, marketing and public relations company founded in 1948. They have been behind some of the biggest campaigns in the world, from Dove to IBM to doing tourism for India. Ogilvy Health, however, is a part of the agency that deals with, as you guessed it, healthcare clients. They build brands, protect reputations, garner attention and influence through creative storytelling that's ultimately informed by data. It's fair to say they probably had a very busy 18 months so far. Now, where does Natasha fit into this? Well, she's been working in social media for at least 6 years now and has a healthy mix of in-house and agency experience. She's worked in all sorts of sectors because of this, and from travel to hospitality to education to luxury consumer goods. She's always been attracted to creative and innovative and engaging storytelling, and it's these values that she brings to her work. Since joining Ogilvy Health in February 2021, she's been responsible for implementing their full social media lifecycle for her clients, from strategy to content creation to paid social and reporting. And I hope I've given enough of a hint of how impressive she actually is. When asked to describe her social media career so far, she said varied, fast-paced and fun. Welcome, Natasha.
Hi, Erin. So glad to be here. I'm really, really excited to talk to you today.
Like, the universe was not completely aligned for us to talk to. We've been trying to talk for like a good month, so I'm so glad that I finally got you here. You are our agency social media manager expert on this series. I've not talked to a really big agency before, so I'm really excited to hear what it's like to work for, as social media account manager for one of the biggest agencies in the world, and especially within a healthcare setting, considering what has been going on for the past 18 months, which is going to be very, very interesting. But could you go into detail about exactly what you do at Ogilvy Health?
So my role is a social media manager, and I work across a few different accounts. So my accounts are across 3 different therapy areas, and I also work on a bit of corporate comms. And it's really, really varied, as I said to you before we spoke. So I deal with paid social, creating content plans, looking at strategy, and we're also starting to look at influencer work, which is really exciting and something that can be quite innovative for healthcare, because not a lot of people have done it so far. And on top of that, I look after the agency's marketing, so making sure our LinkedIn is running, that we're pushing out content and promoting ourselves, because we do a lot of amazing work on clients, so it's just as important to look after ourselves too.
I'm going to come back to you about this influencer stuff that you're doing in healthcare, because that is something I've just not heard before. And like, as you said, it's not something approach that's always been taken. I'm noticing it now really a lot. We're obviously government pushing vaccine uptake and things like that. They are getting people who are known in the sort of influencer space to get people to do that. We've been talking to other people before on this podcast, and a lot of people are saying influencers are going to be turned to more and more because they're really good at tapping into what people want, and people do trust them. So I'm really excited to hear more about that. Now, first question. If someone asked you about starting a career in social media, what would be the first piece of advice you would give them?
I think I would have to say you have to be quite passionate about it, because it is, social media can take over your life, because we use it in our personal lives, and we use it if we're using it for work too. It's always there, and this can be hard to switch off for it. So having a passion is really important. And the other thing, which I wish somebody told me, was to research all the time, make sure you know what's going on with platform updates and different content formats, because things change so quickly.
Now, how are you keeping on top of that research? Because you've got to do your day job, that has to happen. But where are you finding the time to look at some extra stuff?
So I get a lot of newsletters with social media updates. One of my favorites is the Social Media Geek Out. I love to read that. And I usually read them on the train or when I'm commuting. Now that we've come back into the office, that is the perfect time to read and the easiest way to. And also, I am a member of a lot of Facebook groups for social media managers. So the Social Media Geek Out Facebook group's another one. that I'm a fan of, and just seeing what other people are doing and what people are talking about. I think LinkedIn's a really great tool to see social media managers talk about different updates too.
It's interesting, like, you know, now you've got the commute back, it's sort of that I don't have the commute at the moment, so it's just like the way I get my information is like when I'm like in the middle of like cooking something or in between tasks, I'm like sort of like looking out what everyone else is doing, and also nicking content ideas, which is not, I mean, it's not, nicking is a strong word, isn't it? It's very much like, you know, taking inspiration, but it's very much stealing what everyone else is doing. Now, what is a typical day like for you at Ogilvy Health? You've got so many different clients. How do you sort of manage a typical day?
Because there is so many different clients, I think there's a lot of project management that needs to be involved. So I have just started using Trello to map out the different things that I need to do each day. So I break my boards into the different clients and then admin and things for the agency too. But something that I do every single day without fail is monitoring my paid ads. That is something I do every morning just to check what they're doing, whether any countries are eating up too much budget, or if I need to switch off an ad because it's eating up too much budget and I want to let something else see the light of day. That is something I do every morning. And also client liaison is a huge part of my role too, because social media moves so quickly. I always like to keep clients up to date on what's going on, and just so they're aware and they know that we're on it.
So you have all these different clients. How are you keeping them up to date with social media?
So we have regular status calls carved out each week with our clients where we can give them updates. But also if we see anything important come through, we'll send emails or send them messages on Teams. We are really lucky to have great relationships with our clients. A lot of the clients we have at the agency have been with us for 20 years, which is amazing. So they really trust us as a strategic partner rather than just pushing out content. So if we do have any ideas of things they can do or how updates will affect them, they are really willing and open to listen. But another thing that we as an agency push out is something called the Social Checkup, which is a bi-weekly newsletter which details all the different platform updates and campaigns that we have liked in those previous 2 weeks and how we think any updates will affect clients in our industry. So they really enjoy reading that, and we always get really great feedback on that.
So what are the open rates like on that newsletter? Do you notice when some weeks like, yeah, you know, I opened it?
Do you know what? I actually don't know, but that's something I should look into because I love stats. So I should look into that.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, right, yeah, I'll send this email to the clients, but who's going to bloody open it? Sometimes that is the thing when you do these newsletters, and you seem like a very newsletter-orientated woman. But yeah, no, maybe advice to everybody listening. Check those open stats because you don't want to waste your time. Now, you're mentioning that these clients have been with you for years. You yourself joined Ogilvy Health in February this year. You've come in as a social media account manager. What is the structure of your team like when it comes to these clients? Does each client have a social media manager on board, a social media assistant, a paid person? What is the structure of your team like?
It's completely different on each account, actually. So my team at Ogilvy, as in my wider team, is a PR and social team. So a lot of us have knowledge on social media, and then social media is my area of expertise. So we try and have one person with social as the area of expertise per account. But it just completely varies whether we have an exec on there too, or whether it's just an account director and a manager. It really, really varies across different accounts, which is also quite nice because it means that my role on my different accounts are very varied and I'm doing different things each day rather than the same role just in a different therapy area.
So what's it been like coming into an agency where the clients have been there since day dot, and you're sort of coming into with your brilliant social media expertise? How have you sort of managed that?
When I first started, it was a bit, I guess it could feel a bit overwhelming because they've been with the agency so long, and of course you want to impress when you first start a job. But I've been really, really lucky that the clients that I do work with are really open to listen to new ideas. They value us as strategic partners, and they value that, or they trust that the agency will hire people who they can equally trust. So there's no kind of, there's no issues when a new person starts because they trust that the person that they're working with is experienced enough. And that's really what you want from a client, somebody who trusts you to give valued advice that will make a difference to their business or to their brand.
That's good to hear, because I only asked that because, there is that experience in agency when you're sort of the new kid on the block and you've got these ideas, winning that trust with a new client. It's like, I've had it done like this and this for so long that you don't always want your expertise to be sort of, it's delicate. You don't want your expertise to be criticism of the people who were handling the client before, nor do you want to spook the client in thinking that, like, everything you've been doing so far sucked, and I'm here, new broom, sweeping out crap, and I'm like, everything's gonna be so much better with me on board. So it's good to hear that there's a lot of trust with you when you came on, and there wasn't much of a thing where you had to really prove yourself, which can happen in those environments. Obviously, the past 18 months has been such a whirlwind for healthcare and people working in it. I mean, we don't need to go into why, but how have you managed that? Especially, I'm assuming crisis comms is a huge thing of what you're doing as well. What has that been like for you?
It's been a bit of a roller coaster, actually. So the reason this job appealed to me so much was because of the pandemic and the thought of putting out work that actually really benefits people and trying to combat misinformation. That is such a huge part of healthcare comms. There is a lot of rubbish that people can put on the internet and write, just stuff that isn't true. And I think the pandemic has really brought that to the fore when you see kind of a lot of misinformation about vaccines and COVID, and it really made you realise that people just say anything. But it's been interesting. There have been times when we've had to kind of very quickly pull campaigns because some news was about to come out, and we didn't want to aggravate people more. It's been quite reactive.
Is there a limit to how reactive you feel like you can be in these environments? Because I know being reactive is so much a part of being in social media. It's what you have to take on with the job. Was there ever been any moments where you're like, this is not it, this is just like, it's too much, and how do you kind of step back from that?
There have been times when that has happened. I think for me, talking to my team about it has really, really helped, because there are some things that you can't avoid because either a client wants it or, it's life and it's happened. But being able to detach myself from it a little bit, speak about it with my team, and I guess digest it that way really, really helps me. In my previous agency and in actually my jobs before that, I always worked alone. So having a team around me has made such a difference to the way I work and the way I manage my stress, because there are people in it with you and who maybe might not get as wound up about something, so can talk you down from the way you're feeling. It's so important to have people around you who can support you with that kind of stuff.
So you were working alone in your roles before?
I mean, not so much alone. Obviously, there was always people around, but my agency before this was 10 people, and there was just myself and my manager in the PR and social division. So Dan, my manager at the time, was very much had a PR hat on, and I had a social hat on. So when I would complain about things on social, I don't know if he ever quite got it, because he wasn't as into it as I was. But now kind of surrounding myself with people who are just as passionate about social as I am, I love it. Really, really love it.
What does success look like for you on social media?
It's interesting, because a couple of years ago, I would have just looked at like the stats from the platform only. But the way I've kind of changed my thinking is you have to look at what the end result is. So, for example, I work on a podcast, another thing which I really love doing. And we put out promotion for the podcast, we promote the episodes, and then we also run an always on kind of promotional strategy where we promote the whole series. So if I'm promoting something on social and I can see the stats on the platforms are great, I'm like, okay, that's a measure of success. But if it's not converting into subscribers and listens and downloads, then what was the point of that social promotion in the first place? So I think my thinking has gone one step further and always just looking at the end result, as well as the social platform results, of course, because they're equally as important to driving traffic or whatever it is you want to do. But I think something else which is really important is looking at your share of voice and whether the content you're putting out or promotion or whatever it is making an impact in your field, whether people are changing their behaviour or understanding more of what you're trying to do. And I think also just having people engaging with you and building a community. At my previous job role, building a community was a huge, huge part of what I wanted to do. And it meant that you had I guess, influencers who weren't really influencers, but would always would speak about your brand to other people. And I think the power of social is really, really great for that.
So I think what I'm hearing from you is that those long-term goals with something are always just super important. Like those bigger KPIs of like, okay, we want the downloads, go to the website, go do this eventually with this bigger picture, has to be in your mind's eye when it comes to success, and not always maybe focusing on the granular stuff that is quite immediate to you, and tracking those likes week on, week out, very, very in an obsessed way, which does happen on social.
We've all been there.
But you're also quite involved with paid. What is your approach then, organic versus paid? Because everyone's really trying to figure out how they approach those two things in a useful and timely manner.
It's funny because a couple of years ago, organic was my main way of pushing out content. The account that I used to work on then always did really, really well organically. And then it was like something switched and that stopped working. So at the moment, I focus most of my energy and time on paid because that's really where you're going to get the difference. The algorithms are ruining our lives and making it so that organic just doesn't really make a difference anymore. So if I'm putting content plans together, paid is always, I'd say about 80% paid and 20% organic. Is the strategy that we try to go for.
Now, where are you doing this paid stuff?
Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. I would love to start doing stuff on TikTok, but again, that's something that the healthcare world isn't quite ready for yet.
You are clearly a paid master. Which site is doing well with paid at the moment? Which one are you finding quite easy to get results on?
I'd say the Facebook or Twitter is working the best for us at the moment. LinkedIn, the cost per results are always higher on there, and kind of the campaigns we've put up recently haven't done as well as they used to, but Twitter we always see quite good results, and Facebook, while the ads manager is a pain, we always get pretty good results from there too.
I think what people sometimes forget with paid is that like each platform has its own, for want of a better word, vibe. So, and the way that people use it is going to be so different. So you can chuck 100 at Instagram, 100 at Twitter, and 100 at Facebook. Just because you sent the same types of money on there doesn't mean you're going to get the similar results, even if the targeting is the same. So it's really managing the expectations of people. Now, how are you explaining these paid campaigns to clients that aren't totally paid campaign literate?
I find the easiest way to do that is just to use language that anyone will understand. So I think if my mum would understand it, then that's probably good language to use. Not going into anything too complicated. And when we're doing evaluation reports, just really considering who's going to be reading it. So if it's the social media lead at the client, they'll want the nitty-gritty detail because they'll actually understand it. Whereas if it's just going to the head of brand or something, they probably won't need as much of the nitty-gritty and will just need to come in at a high level. So it's just, I guess, understanding who the report's going to and their level of understanding.
That's brilliant advice, and it's something that you do end up learning over time when you're getting to know these clients. It's like, okay, what are they comfortable with? What are they not? What's going to go over their head? Agency life is busy. Everyone knows that. How are you managing that sort of work-life balance within an agency, but also doing social media within an agency?
Agency life is very, very busy. I can't deny that. But I think because I love my job so much, it doesn't feel quite as bad. Like there have been some roles where I've been working late and I have not enjoyed it. But I found at this job, I, could work till 8 or 9 and actually not cry about it. I just, it's better to get the work done. And it's actually work that I enjoy doing, which I think plays a part in it. But again, people need to have breaks. So making sure that I've taken my holiday has been key for me too, because, we all get exhausted. We all need to switch off. So annual leave is a godsend as well.
Yeah, annual leave, getting that cover for annual leave, putting the out of office on, not having a stray hand on Twitter is very hard on annual leave.
Yeah, that's something I struggle with. Switching off is something I'm not amazing at. I have gotten better at it over time because I have an amazing team that I trust that will do the work that I would have been doing if I was in. But still, I always check Twitter and LinkedIn and have a sneaky look at emails to see what's going on.
You really can't help it, especially when you've got your brand Twitter and your own Twitter, your own like secret Twitter that's completely locked down, obviously, and no one can find it. And you just that circle, you're just straying towards that circle. I mean, there's some notifications there. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. I've been doing that today. I was on annual leave today, and it was like, I'm not gonna.
Oh, did I have you working when you're on annual leave? I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I like this conversation. I like talking to like new people. Like, so I'm more than happy to talk to people and just like, get to know you. And what we're talking about now on the agency side is just completely interesting. So do not feel guilty about it. I could have said no, but I didn't. So on me. What do you think are the essential skills for a good social media manager?
I think project management skills are very important because you have to juggle many, many, many different hats when you're doing things on social. Research, as I said earlier, is important. And I guess the creative, well, it depends what you're doing in social, but creativity always helps, coming up with new ideas. And, as we said earlier, seeing somebody else's campaign and thinking, oh, that was a really good idea. How could I adapt that and use it in something in my line of work? But I always find that these ideas never come to me between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. They come to me at 2 a.m. or when I'm out for a walk. And so I always have a notepad or something with me to jot down these ideas because they will never come in working hours.
That is exactly it. When it comes to creativity in this job, it is vital because you do have to keep moving and thinking about the next thing. But it is hard to sort of bake in, okay, 9 till 11, I'm going to be Mrs. Creative and I'm going to come up with all these things because I actually tried to do that this week and it just was not happening. It wasn't happening. It doesn't work. So you really have to sort of take the moment where it is and like, okay, I've just come up with like 5 questions I can ask on social media to get me some engagement and then just write them down wherever you can. That's probably the best way to do it so you can keep track of all the brilliant ideas you end up having.
I think I read that J.K. Rowling did that for her when she was writing Harry Potter, actually. Something like that. I hope I didn't just make that up and pluck that out of thin air, but I'm sure that she would just jot down ideas and that's how she ended up writing the book.
Now, you've had a varied career. You've been a healthy mix, like I said before, of in-house and agency work. What are the biggest learnings that you've had over your career so far? And what would you probably not do again?
For me, I really, really love working in a team. And I think I've realised that in this job. I don't think I could work in silo again, just because through being in a team and such a supportive team, it's made me realise how important it is to have people around you. And, I've gotten a lot from all of my jobs, but this is the one where I've actually felt secure and kind of like I have people around me who can help me out if I ever need it. I think I think that's probably one of my main kind of takeouts from the different jobs I've had. And also hard work pays off is a realization that I had quite late on, actually. I think in this job, working hard does get rewarded, even if it feels difficult at the time and people do recognize it. I think that is something I wish I realized a little bit earlier too.
How are you defining hard work?
When you're passionate about something and kind of you put your best into it, I think that for me is what hard work is. And if you go out of your comfort zone and you're doing things that you wouldn't usually do.
Now, how would you summarize your social media journey from where you started to where you are today?
I think about this quite a lot. It's something, I don't know why, it always plays on my mind. I remember when I was probably my first year of uni, I got Instagram for the first time. And I got it on my iPod Touch because I didn't have an iPhone at the time. And I only used it for putting filters onto photos. And I think back to then and I look at now and think, my times have changed. So my first job in social media, Twitter, was the main channel that we used. And we were told that we needed to tweet twice a day. And I think do 1 Instagram post a week. All organic, didn't think about paid at all. Moved into my next role, Facebook became the main channel there, didn't touch Instagram, did a little bit of Twitter, a tiny bit of paid. Then moved into my role after that, and Instagram was definitely my main channel, and we had to introduce paid because we weren't going to reach the people we wanted to reach otherwise. And if I look at now, across all channels, paid is such a huge part of what we do. because as I said earlier, organic just isn't cutting it, and it hasn't been cutting it for a while. And I think just all the different platform functionalities, like stories weren't a thing when I first started working in social, and the idea of disappearing content, if I thought about it in 2015 or whatever I started working, it wouldn't have made sense to me. But I think all these functionalities are really, it makes social exciting, and it's made the journey really exciting, keeping up to date with what's going on and trying out different content formats and seeing things that work and maybe that don't work. Clubhouse, again, something which would have seemed so alien back in 2014, because back then, why would you just want to listen to people? It's such an evolving landscape, and it's so interesting.
I love that you've got such a positive experience about the way things have changed. That you've tackled the change with good vibes. Where sometimes I'm a bit like, oh my god, another thing, another goddamn thing that I have to think about now.
I'm probably looking back with rose-tinted glasses there. At the time when things changed, I'm like, why? Why have you changed this? Why is that button now somewhere else? But looking back, it's romanticized.
What do you think the future of social media looks like for your industry?
I think there's so much untapped potential in healthcare still, because social media in healthcare is still a relatively new concept because brands are so scared of it for so long. And that makes it really exciting because it will evolve so much in the next couple of years. And I think the pandemic has made it even more important for healthcare to be present on social, to tackle misinformation, to raise awareness. It's going to be a really exciting couple of years, I think.
We're going to go on to our quick fire questions now. Are you ready?
Yes.
First social media site you signed up to?
First social media site would have been Bebo, maybe?
Clubhouse or Twitter?
Twitter.
Light mode or dark mode?
Definitely dark.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee. I drink probably 6 cups of coffee a day. It's really not good for me, but I can't help it.
Which social media trend out there right now do you absolutely despise?
I don't know if it's still a trend, but the one that I've hated over the last year was the everything is cake trend. You know those stupid videos when you'd see like a shoe and it was cake, or a fry up and it was cake. Not everything needs to be cake. I hated that.
If you could run any other brand social media, which would it be?
KFC has always been a dream of mine. I think their social media communications are hilarious. I quite like the lightheartedness and being able to have fun. I think they run a really great account.
So Natasha, thank you so much for joining us today. I think I've learned so much about healthcare in general and how you do that with social media, and it's a brilliant insight into agency life as it is today. Where can people find you?
So we are Ogilvy Health on LinkedIn, Ogilvy Health UK, I should say, not just Ogilvy Health. And I am Natasha Finn on LinkedIn if you want to connect with me, or Tasha Finn 93 on Instagram. So find me, I'm always up for a chat and would love to let you know what we're doing at Ogilvy and what I've been doing in just general social media world.